Hey, what's going on, guys?
What's
Hey,
up?
everybody out
Yeah.
there. I want to introduce you guys. My name is Dustin Kircher. I have my partners Ben Dracer and Christian Agnolini, and we are part of MHP Nation. So we are doing our first live Zoom today, or podcast, YouTube channel, whatever you want, wherever you see this. We have a special guest on our show today, Jake Freeman. I'm super excited to have him on the show. I've been wanting to talk with him and reach out. Luckily, my partners Ben and Christian have, and they said he's been a wealth of knowledge. So I'm super excited to have him come in here and tell us about his journey, and so we can ask him some questions as we grow into the mobile home park space. You guys get to see us start from the beginning and start acquiring these parks. So without further ado, I want to introduce Jake Freeman. What's going on, Jake?
Hey guys, thanks for having me. I know I've talked with Ben and Christian several times. Christian's how I met you guys.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for having me on here. I'm sure I have just as much to learn from you guys as vice versa. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, well, we appreciate your time. I know you're a busy guy and you got a lot going on. So, coming in here and sharing your knowledge with everybody is really appreciative. So we appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So tell me a little bit about yourself, how long you've been in the mobile home park space.
Yeah, so mobile homes. So like I've told you guys, I have two partners. Their first investment was a mobile home park before they ever owned a home on their own. They brought me in specifically a little over a year ago into what's now we rebranded into Spark Equity Group. And so it was Sam and Will, like I've told you guys, two good investors, and they had a third partner that retired. They started talking to me about doing larger asset classes. They were mostly doing single family. And then that's how I got introed into mobile home park space and commercial industrial, which was only about 12 months ago. And then we started pushing parks probably about 6 months ago is when we started putting focus towards it. And I've done 3 parks since and sold one and have one under contract. So
Nice.
It was actually set to close last Friday. It's getting pushed due to some title issues. So
as always,
we're into that, right, Christian?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we've been delayed 2 months on title issues. So
yeah, we were notified on day of closing, and then all of a sudden it was like, hey, this half of this land doesn't even belong to the same owner. We're like,
are you serious?
Yeah. So it was like 3 hours before closing.
Yep, that's why you. That's why you never count your eggs, right?
Till they hatch.
Until they hatch, right? That's the saying.
Never count.
But yeah. So yeah, I'd say overall less than 12 months into the space, but less than 6 months into doing deals with it. And the first park that Will and Sam bought was 3 years ago. And I know I've told you guys this story, but they sold their cars for the non-refundable earnest money, and then they went and lived in the park for 6 months while they were, at the time, there wasn't much structure to it, but they were remodeling the homes themselves and sleeping in sleeping bags at night, and then driving back during the day for their day jobs, and then going back at night. And I think they were Ubering or borrowing a car. I can't remember, but
wow.
Yeah,
That's
kind
amazing.
of a sink or swim, do whatever it takes kind of deal.
Yep.
They took a 18% hard money loan on it at first.
Woo.
Refied it at 6 months. And so within Spark Equity, Will raises all of our capital right now. And that's Will's superpower. And Will's amazing at it, does a really good job with investor relations, bank relations. But he had to raise all the capital for that deal while it was under contract, and he had never done it before. So I don't know the exact number. I think it was close to 200,000. So that park is 96 homes, and it's underneath the Spark portfolio now. But
nice. And where's that park located at?
It's located in Ponca City, Oklahoma. It's
okay.
Yep. Country Mobile Home Park.
So. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love stories like that. Just the grit, and like going down and getting dirty to get your deals, right? Like,
oh yeah,
living in the mobile home, doing the work, going to work, do your W-2. I love stories like that.
I wish I could have been a part of that, just so that I had more of like the grit story side of it, because you hear it and you're like, oh, that's awesome, that's so cool, and then you're like, to live that would be completely different than it just sounding cool.
Yeah, exactly. That's dedication, though. That is definitely dedication.
Yeah, that's just Will. Will's a all or nothing guy, 100%. So,
was there a lot of infill for that park, or were they tenant owned or park owned?
I want to say there's still about, last I looked, I think there's like maybe 18 or 20 that are still park owned, that I don't think they have a large issues with because of how the contracts are set up. But
Nice.
they did convert a lot of it into tenant owned, and then they've infilled it slowly. I want to say probably moved less than 10 homes into it. It was pretty full at the time. So, and it's a big park. So.
Yeah, 90 pads. That's a pretty good size park for your 1st
Mhm.
one to get into.
Yeah, and that was before either of them owned their own home. So I think Will lived with his parents at that time. He was either 24, I think. So
yeah.
And you said he had to raise 200,000 for that. What was the purchase price?
Yeah, I wish I knew the better numbers total on it. He probably doesn't want me sharing total purchase price because we have a lot of interest of people wanting to buy it. But I know that in order with the hard money loan and all that, he had to raise more than what you normally would, just because that was their first park. The lender, I'm sure, wasn't super fond of their first investment being a mobile home park with no prior experience, and therefore justifies why it was 18%. So
makes sense.
Yeah.
Refied it with the bank at 6 months, so it was just a 6-month haul from what I understand.
Wow, that's awesome.
But they didn't need more seasoning than that, and that they were able to refi it.
I think the appraisal came in over quite a bit over, and they were able to pay out some of the investors. So.
Incredible.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then where are you guys at right now with number of pads?
So underneath, and I want to make this clear because I came in and partnered a year ago. So Sam's been investing for 10 years. Will's been investing for 4 years. I've only been a little over a year. So when I came in, my deals are a lot slower moving. So they were doing mostly single family. Last year they bought about 104 underneath our Spark umbrella. The year before that was similar. So that's a volume game, and those are all in Tulsa, nowhere else. So the total umbrella as far as underneath the equity group right now is about 540 doors. About 130 to 140 of those are mobile homes, 2 apartment units that were bought back before when you could actually get deals on apartment units. And then Sam has led the ground up RV storage that phase 1 is done on it. And then
nice.
phase 2 is kicking off, and it's in Sapulpa. It's in the city, so just south of Tulsa, about 10 minutes from our office here downtown where I'm at. And then breaking ground, Sam's leading that as well, breaking ground on the a new storage unit facility. So that's kind of the umbrella. I've only played part in the parks and commercial. I don't put any attention towards single family. I actually bought my first single family investment just a little over a year ago. So I've gone from like 0 investments to, I think I've done about 36 transactions with Sam and Will. That includes like parks, commercial, and then we have that other park we'll close hopefully next week if title comes up. And then I have like 3 buildings for sure under contract that are commercial. So that's industrial right now. And those we've done in that like 15 to 20,000, 25,000 square foot range. And that's the majority of my focus is just on parks and then those industrial type buildings right now. So I just say that to say I'm not going to go and tell someone I own 500 units. Between the 3 of us, yes, but I've only played part in a small part of that over the last year. So
I get the same.
Go ahead.
I get the same thing, like because I was with the hedge fund and I've been part of 5,000 transactions, but it's like, no, I don't own 5,000. I personally have done hundreds, but not 5,000. So it's
well, I wanted to make that clear because I think social media in itself is a lot of a hoax where people are like, oh, this guy advertises he has so say I went on social, like I got 550 units. It's like, no,
you're 10% owner.
Or guys will be like, man, I've got 3,000 units of apartment buildings, and you're like, okay, and then you find out they're like 1%, and it was just their finder's fee rolled in. And you're like, okay, well, just tell me what you actually like. Tell me, So I want to make that clear. I've only played part in about 30 some odd transactions now. On the commercial side and the park side, between those transactions, those as far as like net revenue, or I'm sorry, NOI, the NOI on just 2 of those deals outweighs the other 34. So
Wow.
Nice.
That's where having Sam and Will as good partners. Will obviously raises the money. I'm finding the deals and structuring the deals. And then Sam, just with his experience and years of doing all this, he can kind of bulletproof it. And we could do a lot more transactions of parks and a lot more transactions of commercial / industrial if we didn't want to, if we wanted to do a little bit more, I guess, loose deals. Like every deal that we've done, I can say are like home run deals.
Nice.
And so we would rather have 4 to 5 good commercial deals a year instead of like 15 to 20 deals and come back and 8 of them are like a pain and a headache. And you're like, I wish we could just fire sell these. And that's where I needed Sam to kind of come in and be like, hey, I know this looks like a good deal. Here's why it's not a good deal based off my experience. I'm really thankful for that. So. Yeah.
So you talked about a little bit about what they both did. Is there anyone else on the team? How many people do you got? What are the roles type of thing?
There's 2 guys that are helping head up single family acquisitions. And then an assistant. And then we have Spark Construction, which, so out of those 100 something homes that was underneath the Spark umbrella last year, about 80% of those were remodels. So 2 full-time GCs with a bunch of 1099 contractors that exclusively do the work for the single-family homes, and then if we need to use them for like commercial, we'll pull them over for weeks at a time. So I think total employees like in office now is about 13, and then probably a handful of 35 to 45 1099 contractors. So.
Wow. The 13 in office. I mean, is that all acquisitions? So
I was the first like acquisitions. Did we just lose?
I'm not sure. I don't know where.
Keep going. I was the first like that came in strictly as acquisitions, and and I'm lucky enough to partner on the deals. So we partner in 3 ways, and then I'm just any deal that I bring, I'm responsible for finding, structuring, all that. Right. And then by the time I have that under contract, I go to Will. Excuse me. I go to Will and I'm like, hey, we need to figure out this side of the banking, this raise this much money, et cetera. And then Will's like, cool. He handles that. And then I can keep focusing on more deals. So I focus on what I'm good at, which is handshaking, networking, finding deals. I love structuring deals. That's like one of my favorite things to do. And then Sam's just to make sure everything goes right. And I say that Sam probably works more than all of us because he's on he goes and looks at all the single family homes. He looks at all the parks. I mean, he's doing all these ground up builds, land development, that kind of stuff. And so, yeah.
Nice, man.
Yeah.
Sorry, something happened with my camera. It shut me off, and now I'm back with just my computer camera. So I apologize for that, guys.
You got back fast.
Yeah, I was freaking out. It's like, oh, did I just boot everybody off this, or was it just me? So, there's learning experiences, all these technical stuff. But
it looks like we got a question here. Somebody here on Facebook asked, are the majority of your deals in a certain area of the country?
Yeah, so right now they're all in Oklahoma. I know we've looked at deals in Joplin, Kansas City, and even Oklahoma City, but I mean, everything right now, the furthest deal away is Ponca City. That's just was the mobile home park. It's 2 hours away, but everything else is within an hour and a half. I know. So we started up lending as well. So it's Spark Lending, like hard money lending. I know that's doing about 8 to 12 deals a month right now, and that is lending across the country.
Nice.
So that's the only thing that I would say is probably crossing state borders right now at the moment. We built out so I've got 2 other guys that are doing acquisitions now and have started in the last 3 to 4 months, 3 months or so. And so we're trying to create a system and we built out the calculators for it so that we can pick up acquisition agents in other cities and then just be like, here's a simple calculator to use, and then walk them through their first couple of deals and then have a plug and play calculator. So for the parks, we have one set up. Have I shared that with you, Christian?
I think we were about to go on a Zoom together and review it, but I'm not sure.
Okay. So for that, and then the commercial, as far as area, we don't really ever factor that much appreciation, I guess, into them because the deal has to work for us. We try and make the deal work month 1. So
Yeah.
The last commercial deal I did, it was 18,000 square foot warehouse. We bought it. We had a marketing period in there. So it was a 30-day marketing / inspection, and then 30-day close. So I pre-leased it, had first month's deposit, and they moved in the day of closing. So we closed at 2. They moved in. They're on a 3-year triple net, and they moved in at 5. So eliminating holding costs. We try and do that as much as we can if it's available. I'm doing that with 2 other buildings right now that are commercial. But obviously, I know we're talking about parks, so we'll stick to that. But
yeah,
no, it's all interesting too.
Yeah. Maybe we'll have to have you back, and we can pick your brain about all the commercial.
Yeah, it's completely different than parks, but it's all the same once you kind of get a rhythm to it.
Yep. Nice. And did you guys go into this together? Did they learn at the same time you were learning this, the other commercial side?
So they had done one commercial deal
Okay.
until we started doing partnerships on commercial deals.
Nice.
Sam had done some land deals, like land and land development. But as far as like really kicking off the commercial industrial side, no, we just kicked that off about 4 months ago. So, yeah. Obviously, the single family is still doing the same amount of volume, 10 to 12-ish houses a month.
Yeah.
It's the teams there are in place. And
yeah.
Is that buy and hold, or is that wholesale or fix and flip?
Only buy and hold, but the majority are remodels. So that's where the contractors and all that come in play.
Nice. Are those all like off-market deals? Are you going direct to agents? How are you finding your deal?
On the single family, I would say probably 85% are off market.
Yeah. So you got a big marketing arm that's going out there and finding these deals. Nice. That's awesome. Best way to do it. You find the best deals going that route for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I haven't figured out how to tailor heavy marketing into the commercial side, but I think on the park side, it would work a little bit better. I haven't put much attention towards it. And as you guys know, I mean, most parks that we're coming across, at least, if I'm in there and the seller's like, hey, I'm willing to sell, there's at least 15 other people that have looked at it, or at least 3 that are making offers.
Yeah.
Usually you win by being their friend or by helping their situation. So, whether that be tax deferral using creative structures, sub to, or creative financing. I think, Christian, I told you about the Cushing Park. No, it was Ben. Ben, I told you about the Cushing Park. If you guys want to talk about that, I mean, that was a 100% creative deal. It was, well, here, you want to talk about that real quick?
Yeah, tell us about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That one was, it's right off the highway across from a Walmart in a small town. So it was 14 homes and then a single family home on the property. It has a creek running through it. It's 21.2 acres after we had it split off from the other 40 acres that was with it that the owner wanted to keep. So overall, I went to him. I had an outright purchase price of about $145, I think it was, for essentially 14 homes, small park. And he was like, no, he really wanted to be closer to. He actually wanted 250 originally. And I said, let's look at doing a creative structure. And I have like a really simple contract that I broke down that says, down payment, monthly payments, or I usually categorize it as installment sale, just so it doesn't look, I guess, as sketchy sometimes. Exactly. But something that they can take to their accountant and go, hey, does this work? And then how much does this save me? And we kind of built out like a small calculator. But this guy, he was very well off. He understood finance really well. So I took it to him. I did only 10 grand down, 190,000 financed, 30-year AM. We negotiated. He wanted 12%. We got it down to 8. I started at 4. So my payments to him monthly on the first of every month are $1,380. I know it's just right underneath $1,400. I went in there, sold all the park homes back on payments.
Nice.
So converted the whole park. It's now all tenant owned.
Awesome.
And then the NOI on that park right now is about $4,200 a month. So actually, sorry, $4,100 a month. It's collecting just over $5,000 and some change. And utilities are great on it. Everyone's paying their own electric. It has 4 wells on it for the water. But yeah, so that's a little park. 10 grand in, you have all your money back within almost 2 months.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Your ROI is like 600%.
Yeah, I don't even remember what the cap rate was that I figured. And then the park that I'm buying is actually only 4 minutes from it. It had a manager in place already that wasn't in the park. It was a guy that just manages RV and mobile home parks around that area, and he's the old sheriff in town.
Oh,
So,
that's cool.
yeah, so like, and this is another thing I guess we could bring up is that a good manager makes an incredible amount of difference. So,
Oh yeah.
especially if there's distance, and that sounds like it should be a no-brainer, but people are like, oh, he doesn't have a good manager in place, but I'll figure it out. Well, figure it out a lot of times ends up meaning like you're gonna have to drive back and forth that thing, whether it be 3 hours away, like 3 times a month. And then you have to start calculating, okay, 6-hour round trip 3 times a month. How much is your time worth for 18 hours in a month?
Exactly.
And that's where I think a lot of people slow down their scaling is like, they're like, oh, I want to buy all this. I want to buy all this. And they forget like little key details like that then suck up their entire time. And so that goes back to like us saying we'd rather do 5 good deals than 18 to 20 okay deals.
Yeah.
Because then you end up managing a pile of crap and you're like, oh, I hope this thing turns $1. And so he actually, like, here's an example. On Christmas, he calls me Christmas Day, 8 p.m. And I'm like, oh, he's just wishing me Merry Christmas. And no, he wasn't. He was like, hey, man, he's like, the sewer line froze out here, but don't worry. I brought my tractor down here. I dug it up. I patched it. And then I welded the cage and put it all back in. So it's good to go now. Everything's working just fine. I had to show off for like 2 hours.
Awesome.
He like drove his own tractor down there. It was snowing out. It was actually 4 degrees outside. He dug it up, fixed it, and then went and got the metal and welded like essentially a box that would hold the pressure. I don't know. Sends me a picture of it. I'm like, I don't know how that's working, but I think and we've never had an issue with it since. So like guys like that'll actually go out and do the work. And he's paid based off of, he helps collect as well. So we have some of it and we're converting it to all ACH or automatic right now, but he was just collecting checks and cash up front. And then I've cross-checked everything. He's not taking any money.
Taking anything, yeah. So is that a percentage that you are paying him of the gross monthly rents?
It is. It's a little bit higher than what I would prefer. It's 12% of collection.
But it seems like he's definitely earning it.
It is. So because essentially we walked into that deal with $10,000 into it, no banks involved, easy title deal, a manager already in place that was used to getting paid that. And all I had to do was convert it. So I've been out to the park only twice since we bought it, which was December 8th or something like that. Nice. And it's essentially making $4-ish grand a month. And I've probably spent 15 hours total since we bought it and now it's done. It's stabilized. We could sell it if we want to. And then the park down the road, he's going to manage that one as well. So we can combo those together if we go to sell. And we probably will do that on those. So
yeah, that's nice. I mean, it's important, to include, management. And like you said, buying the right deals. I mean, we've looked at plenty of deals and it's like the sellers they don't have any kind of management in place, right? Yeah. They might have a part-time person that's living in the park that's maybe just collecting the rents, but they're not really a property manager. And so that's a tough one, right? When you're working out these numbers, like, oh yeah, they sent this over and it's only got a 20% overhead and expenses, but they don't have any kind of management in place. So it's important to have that.
Yeah. I mean, so let's like look at worst case scenario, I guess here, like Dustin is, say that park didn't have good collection rates, didn't have a manager in place. I would have been out there on Christmas. I probably would have been late on rent. That was the first month we bought it. So December 9th, 2.5 weeks later is when that sewer line bust. So I would have been out there like on Christmas Day on my like first park that we ever like partnered on. And I would have been like, this sucks. It's 4 degrees. I don't know why the sewer's not working. I don't even know where to dig this up at. And I did run the sewer lines so we moved a few homes into it. And I ran out there with the excavator. That's the majority of my time that I've taken out there. And actually I did it with Sam because Sam was like, hey, this would be great for you to learn. Because Sam did all of his own RV park, all of his lines himself. So we went out there, hooked up electric, ran everything because that way I understand it going forward. And that's where Sam's a really good partner. Like he's like, this is something you need to know. This is something you don't need to know because I know how to do it. Yeah. But if there wasn't management, I could have been, already 2 weeks behind on payments from tenants. I could have been having to just pay for that myself, trying to figure out I got to go rent a tractor. It's Christmas Day. Everyone's mad at me because they can't use their toilets. and I could have been out there for 2 or 3 days while these people are like, wow, this new owner sucks.
Yeah.
And that's where people, I think, get really hungry to get into a deal. And then you'll hear them like, man, I bought one and it was a nightmare. I never bought another one again. And then you have guys that are like, I just want to blank on his name, down in Florida, that has like 2,000 units over the last 3 years. I was just listening to him.
Kevin Bump.
I think maybe he is Kevin.
Kevin Bump. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So
Sunrise Capital or something like that.
Yeah.
So. Speaking about horror stories, it seems like Sam and your team has helped you like avoid them. But have you seen anything firsthand? Any horror stories in your journey? I
honestly, I knock on wood, have not had anything that was just like out of the blue, like this sucks so bad. And I think a lot of that was hedged with experience, and like proper inspections, knowing what to look for from Sam's side of it. Will never really leaves the office, and that's what Will's great at that. Like Will, I can call him. Me and Sam are out running around almost every day, so I usually come to the office about 3:30 p.m. and I stay till like 5:30 to 7:30 depending on the day. But most of my mornings are out either doing walkthroughs on buildings or parks, finding vacant stuff, or cold calling. So I'll cold call. I'll bring my computer in my truck, and I like doing it as I'm driving because then I can look for deals as I'm calling.
Yep.
But that's what just seems to work for me and Sam. A lot of people like to just sit and hit the phones or pull lists and then just go through them over and over and over. But, since we are local in Tulsa at this point, I have a pretty good idea of what's going on.
Yeah.
In most districts. So.
Yeah. There's something to be said about being local and to the market. And like we talked, offline, is like when I first got started, it was all referral business. I mean, just people, and people that know what you do. So that's important. But, keeping a marketing arm going at the same time, but still referral business is great because you got a leg up. Someone introduces you. Most likely you're going to work out some kind of deal, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So that's awesome.
And a lot of the, I'm seeing it now because I'm about a year into actively calling and pursuing deals. Instead of kind of letting, like when I had the trash business, which I still have, which is the roll-off business I told you guys about. That was how I was finding deals originally, was we were dropping off roll-off dumpsters in front of hoarders' houses. And then they're like, oh, you want to sell this house? And then that's how I started buying houses. But now it's funny because it's really turned to where I have a large influx of leads. So I worked all day Saturday because I had 3 different deals sent to me. And I went and walked through every one of those deals and then was throwing together offers same day or Sunday morning. So I went to church. Then I made an offer. I got one offer accepted. We came back. They countered it. It was a good counter. I put it under contract yesterday. And it's like, that was a lead off of Facebook.
Nice.
And so it's kind of turned now to where originally I did 4 months until I kind of found my rhythm. I did 4 months of at least 5 hours a day. All I did was plug into a headset and call. And that was it. And then it got to where I was like, okay, well, now we're in this in-between stage where it's like, I kind of spend some time calling, but now I'm in front of deals and now I'm in front of sellers. So now I'm trying to figure out offers. And then now it's to where it's like, I don't know, like the last 2 weeks, I think I missed a few deals because of how much like influx of leads I'm getting. And some I didn't put enough diligence towards to like execute well on them. So like I have tomorrow completely blocked off to review my last 3 weeks to make sure. And so me and Sam are sitting down for like 3 hours tomorrow afternoon and doing nothing but going through addresses of deals that like we've offered on, that are under contract. Are we doing everything correctly? Is everything checked? And that's just kind of, I guess, it's a good spot to be in. But, pros and cons to all of it, right? So
nice growing pains. Yeah.
A lot less sleep right now. So
there's something that you said earlier that I wanted to bring back. I wanted to circle back to it because I don't want that to go unheard. You mentioned that you actually took a lot of park-owned homes and converted them to tenant-owned homes.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a reason why you did that? Do you like tenant-owned homes better versus park-owned homes? Tell us a little bit about your thought process there.
So in order to scale, you want to eliminate any headaches that are available, right? So obviously, if it's a tenant-owned home, then they're responsible for all maintenance. If it's a park-owned home, I'm still getting phone calls saying, "Hey, my sink's not working," or my toilet's not working, or my light just turned off. And sometimes, whenever there's a change of ownership, that's when a lot of people will execute strongly on like, "Oh, I've had this much wrong with my home. Now that you're the new owner, can you take care of it?" And so, at the very beginning is when I usually see the most amount of like complaints or maintenance required. And so I like to so with the park that we're buying next week, I mentioned the location, but we haven't closed it yet. I don't want to jinx anything here.
Yeah.
So it's all park owned homes, and that's the first one I've done that's going to be a full turn.
Yeah.
But one thing that also allows you to do is if you're running your expense ratios correctly, right? So say like on Ponca, I think the actual expense ratio is closer to like 41%, like year on year, like that's where it averages out at.
Yeah.
A lot of guys will sell them, at like a 6 cap, 35% expense ratio. And I'm like, I don't know where these guys are getting 35 unless like, I mean, even if you have all tenant owned homes, I could see it getting, kind of around that number, but you still have a lot of like miscellaneous. I mean, and the other thing is like with smaller parks, you may be able to get a little bit smaller expense ratios with smaller parks because you have less usage for your like infrastructure, right? Like there's less potential problems to go wrong. But if you got a 40 up or 100 up, I don't ever want to see you don't ever want to buy a park with that kind of volume at that low of an expense ratio and a cap rate. Because at that point now with interest, if you are going to borrow from a bank, your cap rate's lower than what your interest is. Yeah. So unless there's a variation in rent, a raise of at least a substantial percentage, then your first year, you also don't want to look like the bad guy that comes in and immediately raises rent and doubles it. You're not going to make money for a year or 2 years, and that's what we're seeing with apartments right now. Is that they're exiting at such low cap rates that essentially the only people that are buying them are people that are looking to park money or place money just for a tax shelter.
Exactly.
And they may have zero amount of market data to support a rent raise, and they're still trying to, because then they're like, well, I didn't pay this on taxes, but I also don't want to lose money. And it's like, well, there's sometimes you gotta. I guess you don't have to pick one, but when it comes to apartments, you kind of do now. The parks have become now. Do what?
He said the market's turned. I mean, rents are not as stabilized as they were before. They're not going up. There's actually some areas are starting to see drops.
Yeah. And I think apartments and retail spaces are where a lot of people used to push money, and so that became very flooded. And now you're starting to see a lot of that placement money over the last 2.5 years move into the park side. So then when you see that, then people can exit, because they're like, hey, this guy isn't looking at it really from an operator standpoint. He's looking at it for a tax shelter standpoint. And so that's why, in the park industry, we've seen that large influx of funds and nationwide wholesalers that are mostly targeting to high income earners that need to place large amount of sums of money, like doctors, lawyers, big city attorneys, that kind of stuff. So if you have an opportunity then to get to a park that is actually still a good opportunity to buy, and you can create a win-win for you and the person selling the park, and then you can actually put in a little bit of the work to turn that and stabilize it into something that is presentable to sell, then you're steps ahead. And that's where, like, for me, if I own a park, I want it to be all tenant owned so that I'm not fixing toilets.
Let me ask you a question then. In conjunction to the original question, when you're underwriting these deals, are you underwriting them knowing you're going to convert from park owned to tenant owned, or are you underwriting them currently as a park owned?
Great question. I was about to ask that too.
Yeah, that's a great question. So no, I'm analyzing it how it sits. So, and this is where I think a lot of guys do get hung is, not hung in a bad way, but it may delay their actual returns. So on our calculator, most people just run them as like all homes and everything is the same. Even if there's an RV that's sitting there skirted, they count that as a home. So I run everything separate. So I have park owned homes and then expense ratio and vacancy ratio for that category. Then I have tenant owned homes, and then I have vacancy and or I don't have repairs on that one usually, but I'll usually factor in like 5% or something to like help carry common area maintenance. And then I'll have RVs, and I'll have like extremely high, like maybe 60% vacancy ratio, saying that they, if I buy this, there's a possibility that they don't like me or they don't like just change of ownership, and they up and just move their RV. It's a lot easier to move an RV, obviously, than a mobile home. And then I'll have a separate category sometimes for single family home estimated value. And is there a way to parcel that single family home separate and possibly do a cash out refi to help cover some of the down payment?
Yep, exactly.
Because obviously, if you buy a mobile home park with a single family home and you can parcel it separate, then you can allocate how much money is going to each direction. And if you can allocate a small amount to that single family home, you could actually possibly refi that home based off 80% of ARV or 85% of ARV, and then help cover, if you're into that thing, for 20 or 25%, you could help pay yourself back some of the down payment.
Yeah.
So
great question.
To piggyback on that question, so this deal that you're working on now, where it's all park-owned housing, and you're going to convert that, you're going to switch it over. Mm-hmm. When you're making your offer, though, and you're going to eventually start converting them into seller financing deals, which is going to reduce your cash flow, but you got your debt that's tied to your purchase. How are you structuring that to make sure that you still have enough cash flow and you're not in the negative?
So I haven't seen yet a bank that'll actually give you holdbacks for repairs on a mobile home park. I don't know. Have you guys ever ran into that?
Not aware of it.
Yeah. I've seen banks lend for like the park itself. They essentially value it as a business, right? Because they look at the homes. Yeah. They don't value a home for worth more than really like $1,000 because it's going to fall apart. It's mobile. Right. It's essentially a cardboard box that people live in. And so the bank's only valuing it as just the NOI for a business, and then that's what they're using to calculate that their loan is safe. So, I'm sorry, what was the original question?
So because if it's park owned, you're collecting rent, right? So you have a higher gross income compared to when you convert these over to tenant owned. So how is that structured? Are you just making sure you get a low enough offer accepted so that when you do convert them, you still have that debt service ratio?
Correct. So that's the only difference. So if you have a full park owned home, park like that, then you essentially need to make the offer based off of what you think you can get for lot rent. But you also have to factor in the time associated for you to actually go in and turn the homes. And then in the meantime, while you're turning it, you may have some people that don't want to turn it that are going to try and squat it. You have to maybe have a 30-day eviction and then you go back in there and you're like, they tore this place up. So you have to have enough built into your holdbacks, or for those that don't know what holdbacks is, essentially repair account for. We like to factor in 10,000. So like on this one, so this is another small park, but it's right next door to the other one. So that's why we bought two small together. We're going to combo. It's 11 homes only, with another 6 spaces that we'll fill in. So we're gonna factor in at least $10,000 per house to help cover if there's any weird holding costs or repairs we have to do, or maybe they want to move out because they don't want to buy the home. And then we're going to have to fill it back in, and maybe it sits for 2 months after running advertisements, something like that. So even though we're not actually paying to keep the home there, if there's not a bank loan involved, like this one is a small enough purchase price that we're just doing cash for it. But essentially we're holding back just the same amount of cash as we are what we're buying it for to cover that. So say it stayed park owned home, then it's a great deal. Well, I say that it's a great deal based off of revenue, but not probably a better deal based off of NOI. You're probably going to have a better NOI based off of it's completely converted to tenant-owned homes.
Yeah.
So I'll run you through the numbers on this one. And so
that's awesome.
It's 11 homes. It's all individually metered, city water, city septic. Everyone has their own trash can, their own electric bill, their own sewer bill. So awesome. There's no utilities billed to me minus a security light, and that's it.
That sounds like the perfect park.
So when I went in there, there's the 2 of the homes that are in there need completely demoed. So I'm not counting those 2 as the 11. There's like 13, there's 13. 2 need demoed. We'll have 6 lots that we can fill in. Everyone's paying about $400 a month to rent them. So in this case, some of these are actually okay homes. And so there's 2 ways to do this. And you'll hear, I've heard a couple guys out of the South that do it this way. They'll sell the homes for like dirt cheap. So like $500, or what do you have in your pocket right now?
Yeah.
And that's a quick way to do it. I do think you're leaving money on the table doing that.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, like if it's a okay home, like maybe I'll go to them and be like, hey, I think this is probably worth, or I'll ask them like, what do you think your home's worth? Like if you were to buy it, and kind of put it on them. And if they're like, oh, probably, $3,000 or $4,000. And here's the other thing is you want to try and do this all on the same day, door to door to door, because then everyone
start talking
worth all of our homes are,
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, I know what's going on now. Cause as you guys, parks are like their own little like frat. Like it's like everyone's thought, and like everyone's like moves together, and it's like them versus the owner sometimes, unless they just like you. And so I'll go back and I'll be like, hey, if you keep paying $400 a month, so like let's just say I sell it to them for $500. All right, and I wouldn't do that. I go quite a bit higher, at least in the like 2 to 5 range if it's. Which is still, cheaper than probably they could just go buy one, and it's going to cost them at least $5,000 to move it. So I'll say, hey, I'm going to sell it to you for $500. So $100 out of your rent every month goes towards the payoff of that home. So in 5 months you own this home, and then I'm going to drop it to $300, and then that's just your lot rent for the rest of the time that the home is here. So what I did there is, if you have rent, so like $400 rent, maybe their lot rent's only $120, but they don't know that. So essentially, you tell them they can keep paying the same amount that they want. At the end of the 5 months, they own the home, and then they just have to pay their lot rent, which is now $300. Then you don't look like a bad guy, because then they're used to paying $400. They pay it for 4 months, and then they're like, "Wow, now I have $100 off, and I get to keep the home."
Yep.
The majority of people that actually move a home from a park is very small, especially now. So like, I moved 2 homes last month into a park. Each home was about $6,000 to move about an hour away, and by the time everything was hooked up, skirted, lines were ran, I counted for my time, depending on how I value my time. Say I value it at 0, probably the holding cost, including with the move, total move plus holding cost is probably $10,000.
Yeah. Wow. Yep.
So if you think about that, most people that live in the parks, it's like, oh, my dad lived here, I live here, my cousin lives in the one across the street. That guy's got a gun, he shoots at our house sometime, I'm kidding. But they're not going to move,
Yeah.
There may be some guys that move, if they have a good paying job, and that's kind of
but usually they leave the trailer there and they take off because they're trying to find something. Yep.
I see a lot of abandoned trailers when we're underwriting deals.
Yeah.
Are you engaging those tenants during escrow period already? Or are you waiting until you close before you guys start having that conversation?
In the past, we've engaged them during a little bit, depending on how it's set up. So like on the Cushing Park, good manager in place. They never even knew it sold.
Oh wow!
Until I went in and sold a couple of the park-owned homes back to them. So like in this case, on this smaller park, only about half the people pay. So that I'm going to go in and be like, hey, this closes next week. I'm going to need your first month's deposit up front, because I'm going to know who's not paying. But big difference between the two parks. So the Cushing Park, really good data. The guy collected really well. It was, because he had the manager in place. He had tax records back 3 years. He had owned it for 8 years. So I had taxes. I had trash bill, all that, at least back for 36 months. So I knew exactly what I'm walking into. This park, there's 11 homes. I've got him down to $60,000 now for 11 homes, which I don't know what. I mean, he's collecting $400 on 11 homes, so I don't even know what cap rate that is, entering like 33% or 33. I don't know, something like that. I can't remember what exactly. But in that case, where I have 4 or 5 people not paying, I'm going to go in and make it clear, like, hey, we're expecting you to pay, and I'm also going to bring the new manager with me, who's managing the other park. And it's going to be like, hey, this is the local sheriff in town. He also collects our rent. He'll be collecting. So that has a little bit of swing to it.
Great introduction.
Yeah. So, and 2 of the guys in the back are running meth out of the back of the park. So the reason I know that is the oil field company that has the lot behind them. I used to do a ton of business with that oil field company, and I've still bought equipment off of them up to the last few months personally. But they were like, yeah, they come park cars back here, and then they walk up to the back, and then they buy it, and then come back around. And I'm like, all right. So we're going to have to kick at least 2 of them out and
Oh God.
That one's going to be a turn. But I mean, 60 grand for 11 homes that will end up being 16 homes. You know, that's a good way to make 300 grand, 350, something like that. So.
Oh
Nice.
yeah, absolutely.
That's a home run. Yeah, that's awesome.
For sure.
Yeah.
How did you find that deal?
Just stopped in. So I was coming back from actually how I bought the Cushing Park was we were out looking, me and Will were out looking at a park about 5 minutes from there. And we drove past it. It was right across from the Walmart right there. And I was like, hey, pull in here real quick. So we whipped in, I took a picture and it had a number on there and the manager's number was on there, Lauren, who manages it. And I was like, hey man, I said, I was just seeing, do you own this park? He's like, no, this guy owns it, blah, blah. Here's his number. Just
That's awesome.
So this is literally like, I call them and people act like these are crazy stories when I tell them this. And this is where you just have to get in front of people, like in front of park. Because you never know who's the guy that's like, I don't want to sell, or who's the guy, the next call you make is the guy that's like, I would prefer to sell right now. And I called him, the guy that owned it for a little over 8 years. And he's like, yeah, actually, we're building a lake house and it's an hour and a half away. And so my wife just told me that we should probably sell it. And I was like, okay. And then that was the one that we bought on Seller Carry.
Nice. That's awesome.
But yeah, both those were drop-ins. Obviously we'll utilize software to look up owners' names. We just lost.
No, we just lost Ben. We're dropping like flies here.
What's wrong with you guys?
Hey, I'm glad it's not me.
I know, right?
That's the biggest fear I had for today was like technical issues because it's our first one. Like my camera went out. I don't know how that happened, but
yeah,
I had my light over here fall over earlier. I don't know.
What's up, Ben?
I pressed the back button in my browser.
Oh my gosh, you guys are bad.
Yeah.
That's a bunch of rookies here, besides Jake. Well, also, so before we get on to the next questions, how do people get a hold of you to work with you and your team?
Easiest is just send me an email. If I can see it first, most of the time, if I don't have the number, I'm not going to answer it. But so just Jake at Spark, SPARK, equitygroup.com right there. Boom.
Right there.
That's
perfect.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, guys, I mean, Jake, as you guys can tell, is a wealth of knowledge. Him and his partners got lots of experience and they're doing some amazing things. So just make sure to reach out to him and show him some love and bring him some deals. So we're hoping that eventually we're going to partner up with Jake and his team here soon. So yeah, we appreciate you coming in here. So I know we're running on close to an hour here. I don't want to keep you too much longer. We appreciate you coming in and sharing everything you got. But
absolutely.
One thing I want to ask is, you start kind of talking about it in the beginning, but what are the other assets that you're investing in so other people know what to bring you?
My whole focus right now is on industrial warehouses and parks. So not really, I mean, we'll look at retail if it's a good deal, but land, commercial / industrial, and mobile home parks.
Nice. And what are you doing with the industrial parks? I'm curious.
So with industrial, we're just running triple net leases on large commercial, large warehouse spaces. So, stuff that's got 2 to 4 bays, flex space, office / shop in the back. It's got cranes, great. Yeah. And then I'm trying to build out, and it's done decently well as far as like trying to find people looking for buildings ahead of time. So
nice.
That's a new space. I really enjoy it. We'll keep growing that. I mean, that a lot of times with those, the deals are always in, the few mil range, but we've gone all the way, like one of them I've got right now is like a 3-bay shop with an office on like an acre.
Oh, nice.
It's like
nice.
$200,000, and like that thing will rent for, maybe make $1,500 a month or $1,000 or something like that. Like those base hits like that, man, they add up quick.
For sure. And are you sticking to just the Tulsa area for the industrial stuff?
Industrial, I would stretch out because I can usually figure the numbers pretty good if I can get someone that knows local lease rates.
Got it. Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
So you're like go out to like Muskogee and Broken Arrow and all that area. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd go anywhere within. I would go anywhere within 3 to 5 hours of Tulsa.
Okay, nice.
If the deal worked.
So Oklahoma City, all the way up. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of opportunity in Oklahoma City. We haven't pressed on it hard. We wanted to get the model narrowed down well here in Tulsa, and get kind of the kinks worked out. So I'm the only one that's putting any focus towards the industrial side right now. And then we have the two guys that came on to start doing acquisitions. So they're calling industrial as well.
Awesome. That's amazing. Well, guys, any other questions for Jake? Let's see if we had anything in the chat. I think we kind of cover everything in the people. I guess this question is, how hard is it to get an RV park going in terms of utilities like electric, water, waste, and how long does that process normally take?
I think it took Sam to do phase 1, which was 62 pads. Now it's like a class A. So we had to dig out a hill,
Nice.
all asphalt roads, concrete pads. But I want to say it was just shy of about 2 years to do that. Now, because if it's not an RV park already, obviously you have to get zoning correct, city approval.
Yep.
That could take up to a good amount of time, depending on which city or town you're dealing with.
Yeah.
And there's always, going to probably be a Karen that shows up at the town hall that just doesn't. So.
Yep. Nice. What is your kind of experience with per pad, like a rough estimate dollar wise, what it takes to build out, like add a new pad or a new spot?
I actually don't even want to give you a number because I don't know where that one ended up being at. So I don't really want to give it a figure. I wish I had Sam in here. I would ask him because he would probably know right off the top of his head.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry, I don't have a good answer for that one.
No worries. I appreciate it. We got another question I just rolled in here real quick, and then we'll make this the last one. We'll let you go. Appreciate your time.
I would like to ask one question too, because you glossed over it. The fact that you've done 35 transactions within a year is honestly mind blowing. And everybody watching this, awesome. You're like rookie of the year. These are your numbers on the board. How can you give the audience and us here, like, what's the secret sauce? What can you recommend? I know we all kind of get like a little bit of shiny object syndrome. How were you able to kind of make that happen? Because that's ridiculous.
So back up to a year from now, when I first really started pushing real estate, I had a full-time oil and gas job. So I did well design for an equity group. And so I was traveling every other week. And this will tie directly into your question, Ben, it sounds like I'm going off on a tangent. But so I was traveling every other week. And then I had part-time guys running the trash business. So we had the roll-off trucks, so like the semi-trucks. So I was running every other week. I was running a semi-truck while like living on the phone. I was then traveling the in-between weeks for oil field between West Texas, Southwest Kansas, East Texas. And then I had just started doing and calling for mobile home parks within like the limited amount of time that I had. And then I picked up last year, before I did anything like that was partnered, I picked up about 12 single family homes in a short amount of time, and they were all remodels. So this time last year, or a little bit further than that, I had all of that going per week between oil fields, running the semi trucks, the houses. And then that's when I had just started doing some stuff with Will. So I hit a point where I was like, I'm doing so much without a singular focus. I hired out Bison Benz, which is the roll-off company, completely. I spent about 30 minutes a week on that. I have a Friday meeting. I have a guy that runs it. He's a great operator. He's a good old boy, good as they come, can fix anything, can run a truck. So now that's all delegated out as far as marketing, invoices, dispatch, trucks running, routes, all that. I quit oil field completely, which was my most secure and safe form of income. And essentially, I was like, you know what? At the time, I was like, I can survive for about 2.5 years based off savings and have some in the back that would be like, allow me as kind of like a oh shit jar. Like it was like if something just came up, I had certain money set aside that I was like, this is never getting touched unless something just goes south. So I quit oil field. I delegated out all responsibilities for the trash company. And then I took a singular focus, and all I did was I said, I'm just going to work Monday through Saturday on finding deals. And so I learned that it's really popular for people to have side businesses. And usually a side business actually hurts your focus from your main business.
Yeah.
And so by actually tunnel vision in, each day is like, let's find a deal. Like I just need one deal. Like if I can get in front of one seller per day. And then, now, so I looked actually before we got on this call, over the last 3 weeks, I've done 24 walkthroughs on commercial properties, like between parks and buildings. So if you're looking at that many, you're going to have 95% of those are going to be no's. And one thing that I go by is like no just stands for next opportunity. So like if it's a no, great, next opportunity, and you just keep going. Not to say there wasn't months that were very discouraging, because I would go for a period where it was like nothing's moving. I don't know what maybe I'm doing something wrong.
Right.
And so I always would think to myself, if it feels like it's getting stuck, or I feel like I'm just not doing the right thing, but I actually know I'm doing the right thing, it's okay to celebrate the process, not just the victories. And it's also
amazing.
That's the point where people go, in my head, I'm like, this is where everyone else quits. And I'm like, if everyone else quits here, but I don't quit here, maybe I'll do something that no one else does. And that's kind of how I always talk to myself. And so because it started slow, because I entered into a new market, I knew trash and oil. And then I was like, let's do real estate. That's great. And Will was kind of like, Will was wanting to partner for a few amount of years. And he was just like, hey, you're a salesman, like you're a networker. That's kind of like your ability. We need that. And so I was just like, trust my ability to do that. Trust that I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do, and then just keep doing it. And that's it. Like just that singular focus, keep pounding it over day in, day out, day in, day out. I said no more vacations. So like, I've done, I think, one vacation over the last 6 or 8 months, something like that. And it was for a wedding. And so Saturdays I'm working, Sundays I go to church, and I take off the afternoons and spend it with family. But after that, it's back to it. So
I love it. I love that you just stay laser focused. And the other thing I got out of that too is you make no excuses. I mean, look how hard you're working and what you're doing, where people are like, I have no time. I can't do that. Did you just listen to Jake and how much he was focused on making this happen? That's absolutely crazy to me, and amazing. And more people should have that instilled in their head. Like, look, this is not easy. No matter what business you go into, you're going to have to grind. You're going to have to put a lot of hours to it. And he found the hours to make that happen. So that's amazing. And I appreciate you sharing that.
One thing on top of that, Dustin, one, thank you for the kind words, but two, actually, do you guys listen to Alex Hormozy much?
Yes. Yes. Yep.
So actually, I took this principle from Hormozy, and he was part of the reason why I quit. So, at the time, no one would have quit the oil field. I feel like no one would have quit the oil job that I had, because it was cush. It was guaranteed. I was in a great position. I had great accounts. The development side of it was good. I was always getting like new accounts picked up. But I heard Alex Hormozy say this, and he was like, and I'm probably going to butcher this word for word, but he said, essentially, if you worked for 5 years with like bare minimum amount of pay that you could like live, but at the end of the 5 years, they guaranteed you that you would be like a multimillionaire. He was like, 90% of people wouldn't do it.
Yep.
And it's like, if you can't put your head down for 5 years of your life to set up the rest of your life, then I don't know what you're doing.
Yep.
Like if you just cannot delay gratification for 5 years, and you have to have like those constant dopamine hits or drinking or, something to like keep you going, then you're just going to end up being in that funnel. Like it just keeps going down. And like, then you could look up in 10 years, you're like, man, I'm actually worth the same amount I was 10 years ago. And that's what happened to me was 3 years ago, I was in a house I couldn't afford. I was in a truck that I could barely afford. I was just came out of a breakup. I had like $800, I think is what I had. And I was like, man, I have a mortgage coming up that's like $1,800. I have a truck payment coming up that's like $800. And the same day I'm on the phone, I had a diesel. It was like an F-250 Platinum. Like it was like, I looked like I was loaded. I put DEF fluid in my diesel tank, which will like blow your engine while I'm on the phone.
Yeah.
So I'm like fresh off a breakup, no money. I'm like, I got these payments coming up. I'm not sure how I'm going to do this. And I was like, that was the day I was like, I'm never going to live paycheck to paycheck ever again. And, that was a little over 3 years ago, and then now, on paper, I'm a millionaire. I'm approaching multi pretty soon, but that's like a 3-year turn of like negative 20 or something net worth to that now. And it's like nothing, like if you looked at my day to day, you were like, okay, you still worked every day, but like actually doing small actions that move the needle, and then having a singular focus, cutting out stuff that's completely unnecessary. So like delegating responsibilities, quitting a job that maybe is keeping you from your potential, as scary as that sounds, and then focusing on a singular action. Those three combined over a period of time, if you can pay yourself the minimum, it's like that's a great way to success, and that's what Hormozy did too. So
nice. Well said. And I think on that note, I think we should end this because that was just great information. And
mic drop, dude.
Being here. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's dedication, guys. And so, well, Jake, we really appreciate you coming in here. I'm glad I finally got to talk to you in person. I know we're going to extend that conversation after this, but appreciate you coming here and spend your time. Guys, thanks for joining us on the live. We will be sharing this recording in the Facebook group and on the YouTube channel. So you come back, and one last time, let's put Jake's information out there. So if you got deals, you want to work with them, there's his contact. So we do appreciate you guys coming in here, guys. And again, Jake, appreciate it. That was amazing for our first guest. That was amazing. Just blew my mind right there. So, all right, guys.
Thank you guys.
And that right here. Appreciate it.
All right.